taking the time to view another DIS TV episode. Develop, integrate, and sustain TV, keeping it simple. Today we're going to talk about Type 1 virtualization. Type 1 virtualization is illustrated here on your screen. Let's go ahead and get a little better view of it here. Type 1 virtualization. Virtualization is all about the server. Type 1 and Type 2 is all about the server that's hosting the virtual session. Type 1 virtualization is native to the server hardware. No operating system is required. So let's take a look here at this example. A Linux server, for example, is requested here. Linux services. This box here has no operating system on it, just has a virtual kernel on it. Could be anybody's virtual kernel, Microsoft, Citrix, VMware, whoever, right, has a virtual session on there. The Linux services requested, the Linux image is directly delivered to the user here, presented to the user from the hardware. So you get Linux here, everything works great. That is an example of Type 1 virtualization. Type 1 virtualization, again, is it's served directly from the hardware. Directly from the hardware. No host operating system. Now in comparison, let's go ahead and take a look at Type 2 virtualization. Notice the image looks very similar. We're delivering Linux request here. It comes up and the user gets the Linux operating system. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the details. Some of the details are pretty simple. He comes down, he asks for the service. Now what's interesting is this server is actually configured with Windows 2008 running on it. So it's a hosted operating system. That means when I boot this server, it goes into a Windows environment, a Windows server. Just like when you boot your desktop today, perhaps it goes into a Windows desktop environment, Vista or 7 or XP. Whatever it is, it boots into that environment. This right here then, what happens is the images themselves, Linux and so forth, actually reside on top of the virtual server's operating system. So I could literally go to my operating system, boot the server to Windows 2008, and then find an icon on there that says Linux. I would select that Linux icon, that virtual machine would fire up, and boom, that customer would receive virtual service for Linux. So that's the difference between Type 1 and Type 2 virtualization. Type 1 virtualization requires no operating system here at the host. No operating system at all. So this is a picture of Type 1. No operating system here at all. When it boots, Linux is requested. It's given to the user just simply from the hardware itself. Whereas Type 2 virtualization requires an operating system to be on it to actually host the virtual image that goes on it. That's pretty much it for the difference between Type 1 and Type 2 virtualization. Type 1 virtualization is required to do any dynamic movement of images. Dynamic movement of images. That image has to be Type 1, which is represented here, with no operating system. The image itself actually resides right at the hardware kernel, at the virtual kernel itself that's running. So that's Type 1. You're going to need that to do virtual motion of any servers. Type 2 virtualization is commonly used in test and development environments. You may run a Type 2 virtualization on your desktop. Maybe you're running a Windows desktop and you like to play with Linux, so you have a Linux version of the operating system as a virtual server, or whatever your situation. You may run, a Mac OS, and then your corporate image may be a Windows image, so you're running your Mac OS to do your work, and then when you have to connect to the corporate network, you click on a virtual image, it's running Windows. Whatever it is, that's Type 2 virtualization, not really suggested for production environments. Well, thank you again for joining us today. My name is Jeff Lush. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and have a great day.